Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Amaria Scott, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Brené Brown's TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. So, first things first, the first question that I'm going to get into is, what was the purpose of the speech and what was the speaker trying to explain to you or convince you about? So Brené Brown's main point and main purpose in this speech was to basically help us see vulnerability in a new light, and that she wanted to convince us that vulnerability isn't a weakness, but it is a strength, a source of strength. And throughout her talk, she emphasizes how opening ourselves up to, love, creativity, or even failure is honestly what, leads to deeper connections and growth. And she also wanted us to understand by embracing our vulnerability, we can live more fully and be authentically ourselves. So the second question is, what is easy or difficult to identify the speaker's main ideas, and what did you notice about how the speaker developed each point? So honestly, to me, feel like it was easy to follow her ideas and her point in her speech, because I was able to understand her main point from the beginning. And what I understood from it was how being vulnerable is very important in order for us to be able to have connections and, see personal growth within ourselves. And honestly, what made her talk so powerful to me was the way she layered her points and the way she introduced her ideas and broke them down with real life examples and personal stories of her own and moments from her own research. And I honestly felt like, listening to that TED Talk, it honestly felt like I was listening to a friend, kind of like having a conversation with a friend. Like, I felt like I was having a conversation with a friend, listening to her talk, and it felt very relatable and deep, but very relatable. And I also felt like she was, she used, humor, and she was really funny, and she made the speech very relatable and really funny. But the third question was, did the speaker use examples or tell stories to develop a point? I'm sorry. If so, were these typical examples, or did the speaker choose examples that were unusual but seemed to prove the point? Yes, she did use a lot of her personal stories, which did help develop a point. And I don't think that, they were typical examples, but they were honestly from, deep personal, and vulnerable stories from her own life. One example was she, talks about research on, shame and how it changes her views on vulnerability. And I honestly felt like she made her stories real by sharing, her moments of vulnerability and how she felt exposed and imperfect and uncertain about, areas in her life and whatnot. But I honestly feel like her sharing those moments with the audience made her speech very, powerful, because she was able to open up about her real life experiences and her own personal stories and whatnot. And the fourth question is, did the speaker use statistics to back up what was said? If so, did the speaker tell you where the statistics come from? Did the speaker surprise you? If so, what would you have needed to hear that would have helped you accept them as accurate? So, she did mention some statistics, surrounding the topics of shame and connection. However, she didn't exactly dive, into specific sources or sources for, the statistics or for all the numbers. But she did mention that her research was based off, her years of interviews and, data collection and, interviews with people and whatnot. And she also mentioned from her research that I was able to take away and pull, that she mentioned how here in the U.S., how we're most in debt, obese, and addicted and medically adult cohort in U.S. history due to us numbing our emotions. So basically, the emotions that, us as human beings tend to, numb our shame, fear, vulnerability, and disappointment. And in return, because we numb those feelings, we in return, we're obese because, we're indulging in food that's not good for us to numb those feelings, as well as, we use drugs, we smoke, anything for us to suppress those emotions, so we don't feel them, any way for us to numb those emotions, to, so we won't have to feel them. And then last but not least, the fifth question is, do you think the speaker did a good job? If so, why? And if not, what should the speaker have done more to be effective? In my opinion, yes, I believe she did an amazing job, and I believe she was very knowledgeable in the research that she's done, and she's just a very knowledgeable person in general. And she's honestly very relatable, and it honestly drew me into her speech. And I loved her ability to be able to connect with the audience, and honestly, her talk didn't feel like a lecture to me, and I felt like it was very meaningful. It was like I was having a meaningful conversation with a friend, and it was very relatable and very deep. And one thing that I want to leave you guys off on is one of her favorite quotes that I was able to take away from this speech that I'm gonna make sure sticks with me, is what she had said was, you know what? You're imperfect and you're wired for structure, but you are worthy of love and belonging. And honestly, I'm going to make sure that quote sticks with me, because honestly, this is kind of personal a little bit, but I do kind of struggle with, self-esteem issues and things here and there and whatnot. And I am working on them, because I'm only human. But that quote stuck with me only because, I have to remind myself that I am imperfect. I'm only human, and I am wired for struggle. But just because I'm struggling in life, that doesn't mean I'm not worthy or I'm not belonging. But that's all that I have, folks, for today. Thank you for listening to my thank you for listening to my thoughts.